دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Gaza Massacre. I'm your host Abdurrahman Saleh, and tonight we are hosting for the second time Dr. Saeed Zulfiqar, the political analyst. Dr. Saeed, would like to welcome you to our program for the second time. Dr. Saeed, let me ask you first, what is the real weight of the Security Council ceasefire?
The weight depends entirely on whether America, the United States of America, backs it or not. The United States of America was going to vote for it, seeing, in fact, Condoleezza Rice was the person who drafted the terms of this resolution. At the very last moment, when the Israelis, when Prime Minister Olmert found out what the terms were, he called her up by telephone and told her not to present it, and she said it's too late. I'm the one who's backing it. He therefore called up President Bush, who was busy giving a speech. He insisted on speaking to Bush. They got him off the podium. Bush went down to listen to him, and Olmert says, "You must immediately stop this resolution from going through." Mm-hmm. Bush told him, "I can't do that because everybody's agreed to it. All I can do is to abstain." The Israelis wanted a veto. The Americans had been negotiating with the British, with the French, with the Russians, the Chinese, and the others to accept this very watered down resolution. So then he gave instructions immediately to Condoleezza Rice through Khalilzad, who is the representative at the United Nations, to abstain. So the resolution went through. But as long as the United States, which is the most powerful country and which has the clout, it's the only country which can order or instruct Israel to stop what it's doing, did not vote the resolution, it means that Israel has the green light to go ahead and to discard this resolution until the Americans wake up and finally decide that it's time that the massacre stops. They haven't done so. They're not likely to do so, I don't think so, for the time being, until Israel gets its terms. What is happening is that Israel has refused to accept this resolution until a ceasefire, which was being negotiated at the time between Sarkozy and the Egyptian president and Hamas at the time, on Israel's terms. What Israel is imposing and what Sarkozy wanted to impose, and unfortunately what the Egyptians seem to be tending to do, I don't know what they're doing exactly because it's still secret talks, is imposing Israel's terms. And this is why several of the Jihad has refused, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine has refused the initiative, and Hamas right now, they have a team in Cairo negotiating slight changes, if any changes can be added. But you can be sure that the Israelis are going to refuse these changes, because what they want is to throttle Gaza completely, destroy Hamas. This was the aim. And I suspect, because the rockets is pure pretext, but they were instigated by Israel's breach of the ceasefire on the 4th of November when they killed 6 Hamas operatives, and the next day another 5, which provoked the rockets. So the rockets, which are practically, they have not killed a single person, were just a pretext. Israel broke the ceasefire knowingly. I suspect what is happening is that they tried to do it with Hezbollah 2 years ago. They failed. They want to restore the image of the Israeli army as its deterrence factor in the region. Deterrence means terrorizing all the other Arab countries. That's what they mean by deterrence. It's terrorizing other countries into suppressing any assistance to the Palestinian people. But what I suspect is behind all this, and why America is supporting them to the hilt, is Iran. The real target is Iran. The only country that Israel is afraid of, it is the only country that it's not afraid of any of the Arab countries, it's not afraid of all the Arab countries put together, but there is only one country that it is afraid of, and that is Iran. Now Iran has Syria, Hezbollah and Hamas as its only supporters in the region. They tried with Hezbollah, they failed. Now they're trying with Hamas, which is by far the weakest link. These are prisoners in a cage.
Yes.
It is the weakest link. And there is no way Hamas can win this in the field of battle.
Yeah.
And I suspect the Israelis are out to massacre everybody until they get their way.
But after 18 days now, can we say that what happened is like a beginning of a victory for Hamas?
Yes, of course. The fact that they've been able to sustain this murderous, atrocious conflict for 18 days, when the commander-in-chief at the time, not the commander-in-chief, the chief of staff, Ashkenazi, General Ashkenazi, said in 36 hours we will have captured the whole of Gaza. They have stood up for 18 days, like Hezbollah stood up for 32 days. And this in itself is a victory, but I mean it's a victory that has cost 1,000 deaths, 5,000 wounded people, destruction of everything, of the whole infrastructure. It is a heavy toll. You would say it's a Pyrrhic victory, but it's not even a victory, but can be considered as having withstood the fourth strongest army in the world, using weapons that have never been used before, weapons that are prohibited, like white phosphorus on civilian populations, on civilian centers, a new explosive that's called DIME, D-I-M-E, which is dense, inert, metal explosive, which is a terrible weapon that is being used, and they're using the Gazan population as guinea pigs. This type of ammunition is provided by the Americans. It is produced by the United States. They use it in Fallujah in Iraq, but of course there weren't any journalists on the spot to be able to film the terrible results on the human body that this DIME explosive has. These are explosives that if it reaches a person within 2 meters radius, it'll cut the body in two. Just cut it in two. If it's at 8 meters from the person, it'll sever its legs and its arms. And if it's a bit further away, then there are thousands of tiny needles that go into the body that are not visible through X-rays, and that destroy the blood circulation, destroy the liver, the spleen, and all the organs of the body little by little. And what the doctors, the Norwegian doctors, the two Norwegian doctors, Dr. Gilbert and Dr. Foss, who are in Al-Shifa Hospital, have said we're receiving people who come in without their eyes. The eyes have disappeared through the use of this new type of explosive, DIME, which is provided by the Americans, has been tested in Fallujah, but now is being tested on the Gazan population. They're using the Gazans like the Nazis used Guernica, which is before the Second World War, when they were testing special bombs on the Republicans in northern Spain, in the Basque country, and they murdered also over 1,000 people in one bombing raid with these new type of explosives. The Israelis are doing the same thing on the Gazans, who are in a cage, in a completely. This is the only time in history since the medieval times when you used to have medieval sieges. When people used to be behind walls. Now they've created a medieval siege, this blockade, where people, 1.5 million people, are locked up behind walls and fences, and they're just being murdered. And none of the world governments, and unfortunately I can't see any Arab governments doing anything to stop this atrocious murderous rampage.
Okay, excuse me, doctor. It seems we have a phone call from Dr. Mish'al Al-Qadahi, the counselor of the Saudi Minister of Communication. Dr. Mish'al, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Dr. Mish'al, we would like you to tell us your opinion about what should we do as Muslims besides being angry and really sad in a situation like this one, and what are the lessons that we should learn from this war?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, just a small clarification. I'm not speaking today in an official capacity. I'm speaking as a concerned Muslim within the Muslim Ummah. Of course, this is a matter that concerns all Muslims around the globe, and obviously this atrocity has been going on for many years, but this final act of violence is something that has caught the eye of the media from the east to the west. And so obviously people are outraged by what's going on right now in Gaza. and everybody's looking to see what can be done. As we know, there's always a role that everybody can play. And it's possible just to go on and on, complaining and talking about how this is such a terrible thing, a terrible tragedy, and we're waiting for somebody to do something, and we'd like to see somebody do something, but there's always something everybody can do. I would like to give an example of this. A number of years ago, when the Arab World League decided to boycott a number of Western products, one of them was L'Oreal. L'Oreal was one of L'Oreal wasn't one of the companies that was boycotted, but L'Oreal was one of the companies that responded to the boycott positively. The Zionists decided that they wanted to make an example of this company. So they took them to court based upon a letter that was sent confirming their acquiescence to the boycott. What happened in the end was that the company was fined $1.4 million, and they were made an example of. And then the company responded by opening up branches in the Zionist entity and so forth. So they know that the matter of a boycott, or boycott of commercial nature, of commercial companies, is something that is effective with them. They live or will die based upon the income, the finances that they receive. And obviously anything that they want to do, whether it be public relations, whether it be military actions, whether it be political actions, whatever it is, in the end they will need finances to be able to accomplish their goals. And they are in a very precarious position because right now, currently, we know the economic climate around the world. I have seen a number of sites calling out for donations to support Israel in a manner that I've never seen before. And the rivers of money that have been flowing into them have been drying up recently. So they need more and more finances, but they're not stopping their actions or their atrocities. And at the same time, we have a very unique opportunity right now. I've seen in the previous boycotts how companies or Jewish charity agencies will place ads or they'll place commentaries on their websites where they will thank, for example, McDonald's, or they will thank Sarah Lee, or other companies of this nature, where they will say, we thank them for their support and their ongoing contributions and so forth. But as soon as these pages come up, the Muslims use these pages as a boycott tool. So then suddenly these pages disappear. So we know from that also that this type of action is effective. And so I think that if we take this whole picture, if we look at it as from an overall viewpoint or perspective, I think there's something that's very effective that all Muslims can do. There are certain companies that are very well known that they support the Israeli nation or the Zionist entity. For example, one of them is McDonald's. Their chairman, Jack Greenberg, is an honorary director of the American-Israeli Chamber of Commerce. And he has gone out of his way many times to support their Zionist entity in many different ways, either verbally or through donations and so forth. And you know that even the 80 branches that they've opened up within the Zionist nation, they have prohibited all the workers from speaking in the Arabic language. And there was one woman who was working there. Her name was Zainati. Her story was quite well known. It was published in the Haram newspaper. She was fired because she had the audacity to speak in the Arabic language. And these things were communicated to the main branch of McDonald's in Chicago. And they confirmed it. They said, yes, that's the policy with all of our branches in the Zionist entity. There are other companies, for example, Starbucks, very well known. Starbucks chairman Howard Schultz has been a very staunch advocate of the Zionist entity and has been even willing to go so far as to put his own company in a very a situation where they will lose money if it will support the Zionist entity. For example, back a few years ago, when companies were pulling out of the Zionist nation, Howard Schultz decided to sign a joint venture with the Gallup Group in Israel to open up three outlets for Starbucks there. Or sorry, it was 6 outlets. And they lost money. They lost money big time. 2 years later, they had to shut them down. The idea here was they wanted to show support, even if they knew they were going to lose money. And after this, what happened was the company itself was targeted by the Jews in the United States for a boycott because they pulled out, because they shut down these 6 branches. And the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, and the Jewish Council for Public Affairs both had to step in and tell everybody, no, don't boycott them. These are people who are staunch advocates of us, and they've been helping us for many years.
Okay, Dr. Meshal, we thank you very much for your phone call. And now it's time for a short break, and we will see you right after, inshallah.
You know, sometimes it's important to take a break. We need to take a break. Take a break from what? From the everyday things to look at what we're really doing as Muslims. That's why we said we really need to have this program for you and for me to take a break right here on Huda TV. Stay with us because we've got a lot coming up on Take a Break.
And if you look into the early tafsir, early exegesis of the Quran, you will find that all the Mufassirin were trying to find out where are the 7 earths. Earthquakes, natural or artificial, can delineate the boundaries between 7 different zones within the earth. The conclusion that we have 7 different layers within the earth came to not only the 20th century. The true believer would prostrate down in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The blessings of that prostration will reach the 7th earth.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back. You're watching Gaza Massacre. And before we go back to our guest, we have a report that we would like you to watch, where we interviewed a Palestinian child who is being hospitalized here in Egypt. So let's watch it together.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
اسم حضرتك ايه؟
ضياء.
My name is Dia.
What happened to you?
كنت أقصد رحمة.
I was on the roof.
عاد رحت نادي.
I went there to call my sister. She said to me, go back inside. She also said to me, I want to die. Suddenly, there was an explosion. I thought a water pipe had exploded. I then felt severe pain in my legs and chest and realized I was seriously wounded because of the fragments of the explosion. My sister was also wounded in her head and back. We then hurried to descend from the roof, and we were then helped by other relatives who brought me to the hospital. When I asked about my sister, I was told that she died. May Allah have mercy on her soul.
Welcome back. Dr. Saeed, what is your interpretation of the big silence of the newly elected U.S. President Obama?
I think that he realizes that what has happened was done to put him in a corner. I can't imagine that he should be happy with these happening. The choice of the date of the attack on Gaza was very astutely selected. It was between Christmas and New Year, when everybody's on holiday. But I'm sure that the Israelis had in mind, with the Bush administration strategists, to do this before Obama takes hold of the White House, in order to change the situation on the ground, so that when he arrives on the 20th of January, the Israelis will be in possession, or will have either in possession of the whole strip, or will have changed the physical appearance of the strip. It'll be even worse off than it was before, and in which case he would be able to do nothing about. They had heard that he was putting out feelers to negotiate with Hamas by indirect means. The CIA had been instructed to meet people from Hamas and to try and bring them into the negotiating game, if you want. This probably convinced them that they must do something to destroy. They do not want to speak to Hamas. Hamas has been for the past 2 years putting out feelers that they're prepared to talk, prepared to negotiate, prepared to allow Mahmoud Abbas to negotiate in their name, on condition whatever he decides finally with the Israelis should be put to the Palestinian population to the vote as a referendum. Mm-hmm. And they would accept whatever the population would if the population accepted the deal that Abbas would have negotiated, they were prepared to go with it. As the Israelis have no intention of arriving at an agreement with Abbas, Abbas is just they meet him, they backslap him, they take him out to dinner, they keep him happy, but they have no intention of accepting any agreement that is not what they are imposing, which is just throttling the West Bank into smaller and smaller settlements and stealing more land. Now, if Obama had changed this whole game and really wanted to reach an agreement by having Hamas brought in, this has been done by the neoconservatives in the Bush administration, who are nearly all Jewish, and all Zionists in any case. It doesn't matter what their religion is, they're all Zionists, in cahoots with Olmert and Barak and Livni. Mm-hmm. So this may be a way of preventing any possibility of arriving at a peaceful agreement, mm-hmm. which both the Hamas and the Fatah would be in agreement to.
But should we expect that this war will be over by the time he is in office, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. I mean, they're killing people, over 1,000 people killed now. Mm-hmm. By tonight, there are at least 1,000 people killed. And these are only the ones that have been counted. There are plenty of bodies under the rubble that no one has counted. Plenty of wounded people who are dying and are not counted because they die later on. I think the Israelis have every intention of lengthening it. That is why Amos Gilad, who was meant to arrive in Cairo tomorrow morning, has put off. He hasn't said when he's coming. He may come day after tomorrow. He may come in 3 days' time. The army wants more time. Mm-hmm. They want to destroy more. They want to kill more. This is, for them, it's an end game. They want to. It isn't just to destroy Hamas. Hamas is the pretext. Mm-hmm. They want to destroy the Palestinian people as a people. This is the real intention. Mm-hmm. The intention is to turn the Palestinian problem into a purely humanitarian problem, a refugee problem like it used to be before Yasser Arafat put it on the world stage. Just a refugee problem, which the United Nations can deal, which the Egyptians can deal with as far as Gaza is concerned, and eventually they would throw them out into the Sinai. The Israeli strategy is first to completely deepen the fracture, the separation between Gaza and the West Bank. They already instigated this separation, but to deepen it totally, and then to destroy any will of the Palestinian people to have an independent state. The chief of staff at the time, Moshe Ayalon, in 2002, I think it was, 2002, Moshe Ayalon made a statement. He said, we want to teach the Palestinians that in the deepest recess of their consciousness, that they are a defeated people. I'm quoting verbatim what he said. By means that he wants to bring them to their knees to make them beg. But this will never happen unless he kills them all.
Yes.
This will never happen. Thank God that we have a Palestinian people of all the Arab world. They and the Lebanese resistance have proved that non-state actors can stand up to the most murderous machine that we can see in the 21st century, which is the Israeli army.
That's true.
Two non-state actors, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Palestine. No Arab army would have stood more than one day in front of them.
Yes.
But civilians who are prepared to defend their territory, defend their families, and who can't go anywhere. In any case, they're hemmed in three sides by Israel and one side by Egypt, which is scandalous.
Yes. Okay, Dr. Saeed, we would like to thank you for being with us tonight. I'm afraid we ran out of time, and by that we have come to the end of today's episode. Until we see you again tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.